been categorizing all their habits and stuff. This is part of their habits.
It says stream status. Okay, now it says good. There
Sweet.
we go. Okay. We should be live. That looks like it's going to be okay. There we go. Quinn, I'm so sorry, man. All this technical stuff. But we are live in Vegas.
Beautiful. Welcome to fabulous Las Vegas.
Fabulous Las Vegas with the amazing Quinn Michaels. So let's just rewind, backtrack, start completely again. We're here in Las Vegas, and what we want to discuss is artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, an overview of what is the blockchain, why is it so important to cryptocurrency and artificial intelligence. You're the first person to tell me you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting because I've had all these questions. A lot of people don't understand how Bitcoin works. I certainly don't understand how Steam It works. That seems like a scam to me. What can you tell us, Quinn?
Well, first off, let's start with the basics of a blockchain like we were before, so we have that understanding, so we can get to why a blockchain is so important to the development of an artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So the blockchain, the way I relate it is simply it's a computer program that's written off based on the evolution of human intelligence. What that means is, at the beginning of human intelligence, you had two people, so to speak, which can be classified as two nodes.
Yeah.
Then those two nodes, as they replicate, they grow in intelligence based on quantity. So it's quantity cumulative intelligence. So it's like it combines the intelligence based on the quantity of the nodes, and as the nodes grow, the intelligence grows. So that's like human intelligence algorithm is like you start with one, and then the base one, it basically just has what we call like a while true loop. So like the base one says while true, or like while duplicating, or while running, or while collecting, you know, while it's doing something. That's the base one. Then it grows from that like a tree or a flower. And as the blocks grow, you need more advanced machinery to do the mining, so technology grows.
When the blocks grow, what do you mean? What are the blocks?
So the blockchain is essentially a system solving problems.
Yeah.
And every time it solves a problem, it gets a block.
Okay.
Like a building block for a building. So essentially, it's not really mining coin, it's building blocks for a digital reality.
Digital reality.
In a way. So these are all building blocks for the digital reality. The building blocks are transactions, the building blocks are objects, the building blocks are, the amount of digital currency that's exchanged for the transaction of the block, the ledger that gets maintained, the transaction volume through the network, the amount of wallet sizes over time kind of stuff. It's basically, think of everything that a human being, when you go home and says, what's in my wallet? What's in my fridge, what's in my closet, you know.
So it's a database of transactions, of users, of receipts.
Exactly. But what makes it different in the way that it's decentralized is that's not like a database program on a computer. It's little bits of the database spread out all
over a lot of computers.
Over the internet. And it's like a human memory when you go to a party, like have your gapped memory, so to speak. You know, you have your flawed human memory that remembers major bits.
Right.
And then when you get into a party of people who you've shared an experience with, and you start sharing that memory, the collective memory forms.
So somebody else remembers part of the story that I might have forgotten.
Exactly. So the transaction in a blockchain is more representative of the collective human memory of a group of people when they get together and collectively agree that this type of transaction occurred.
Now let me ask you something, because I'm trying to get a better understanding of this. It's very difficult, I think, for traditionally minded people who don't know a lot about computers or cryptocurrency or any of that kind of stuff. Like I know, for instance, Charles Ortel is not a big fan of Bitcoin, not because he doesn't think it has a future, but it's just so outside the realm of stuff that his core research is in, that he doesn't feel he has strong knowledge in it, so he's not confident investing in it.
And that's the human element, is looking at it as a monetary value, and the machine doesn't have that. The only reason cryptocurrency has a monetary value is to make it important to humans, so they build the machines to mine it. Okay, so if the cryptocurrency didn't have a monetary value to be placed on by human beings, we wouldn't build the miners, we wouldn't build the equipment, because there'd be no value in it.
So people want to take their computers and put lots of GPU cards in there and make it a really powerful computer so it can do all of these calculations so that they can get Bitcoin and use that to buy all the things that we want to buy. Now let me ask you this about blockchain.
Okay.
Because when I go to the bank, I go to Citibank, I go to Chase, whatever, I put my money in there. The bank owns computers, the bank has programmers who are creating databases to say, Jason has a bank account, he put $10 in the bank. Oh, we went to this ATM machine and took out $10. He used this credit card and spent $10. And obviously the bank is spending money to build that infrastructure, computer hardware, computer software, people to run them, and the bank has operating expenses.
Yeah.
Is it correct or incorrect that part of the function of this blockchain is to do all that stuff, but without actually buying the computers and paying the people to run them?
It's designed to do all that stuff and to get you, the consumer, to offer your computer to do it on behalf of the bank.
Got it.
So now the bank gets to write the software and use your computer to run it.
Okay. So, but the bank is not actually a bank because there is no central bank or anything really controlling cryptocurrency.
There is the platform, is the centralized platform that controls it. So if the platform were to get hacked, or if a developer were to create a coin that would have like what I call like a backdoor, pinhole backdoor, that when it hits a certain market, it opens it up and they can pull it all out and disappear. There's a lot of options you could do with like altcoins that are secondary markets, like penny stocks, you know, and how you can manipulate markets, and then individuals can make a lot of money getting their buddies together to manipulate markets and create pyramid schemes, and a lot of that really opens up with cryptocurrency because of lack of regulation.
So what would give, it sounds like Charles Ortel knows what he's talking about yet again, what would give the average person confidence in buying Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin to know that that won't happen, that it won't get hacked, that it won't get backdoored or whatever you're talking about?
Research. Learning who's developing the platform, learning who's supporting it, learning other companies that are developing against it. Because the platforms are open source, what gives them their solidity are the companies that are supporting it. For example, Apple has WebKit. Most people don't know what WebKit is, but WebKit is the thing that runs underneath Safari that renders all the web pages. Okay, for a long time, Chrome also used WebKit made by Apple to render the web pages in Chrome until Chrome decided to make its own. So this is very much like cryptocurrency, where cryptocurrency is very much like the WebKit, and then people are building the browsers on top, like the wallets. They're building the little contract systems that handle the contracts. They're building altcoins that have potential social impact. So this is all pretty much people building everything on the same encryption scheme.
Like a software developer's kit, an
Exactly.
SDK. Or it's almost like, for the people that don't know a lot about computers, it's like an engine. If you're Ford and you sell an engine to some tiny little company that's making, like, say, Shelby Motors, it's a Ford engine in a different car.
Yeah, and then you can put your tires and your body on it. You can put your mirrors on it. You can put your locks in it. And hey, my locks are better than your locks.
But it's a Ford engine at the heart.
But it's a Ford engine, because all the altcoins, even Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin, whenever you go into their source code, which is available to look at, you don't have to understand source code to look at source code and know that you see the same code across all of the platforms.
But could someone like you look at that and say, oh, look, here's a back door. This is not some coin you should...
I find them sometimes.
In Bitcoin?
Not in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's pretty solid as far as its transaction because banks have an invested value in it now.
They do?
Yeah.
How do banks have invested value in it?
Where do you think people go for loans to build big mining rigs?
So banks, what banks have supported Bitcoin?
Russian banks.
Really?
Yeah, it costs $500,000 to get a good mining altcoin set up.
Wow. And then, of course, you were just telling me earlier about this crypto ruble. That's a pretty amazing thing. Do we want to get to that or not yet?
Not yet. We're almost kind of almost there with like the basis of the blockchain and complete how it relates to AI. No, you're very valid because that relates to how Putin said whoever controls AI controls the world. Now Putin's coming out saying that they're creating a ruble cryptocurrency. And they're going to start regulating crypto markets in certain countries. I mean,
but I haven't heard anyone before our conversation earlier today link artificial intelligence to cryptocurrency.
That's because they don't understand transactional systems. Okay, so for an AI...
Did you come up with this, or have you heard anybody else talk about this link?
No, I could show you the cryptocurrency that the AI made to make this all happen. It's out in public on GitHub. I was the 10th person in the world to fork it, which means I have my own version. I'm reading their code, and I was the 10th person to know about it as a developer.
Fork that!
So I forked it on GitHub, and now we're dissecting it.
Okay.
So what does
that mean, you forked it?
So on GitHub, I don't even know why I said that, but on GitHub, you can clone a repository, which means if I put code on there, you can say, I'm going to clone your code to my computer.
Hang on. Because there's a lot of people listening who are like, have no idea what you're talking about, including me. GitHub is a website where people share open source code.
It's where all the code in the world is stored, pretty much.
Wow.
So and GitHub was funded by the Kushner investment group.
Really?
Yeah.
How does GitHub make money?
They make money through corporate sponsorships of their platform. This is the theory of software development now, and this is how the crypto market's going to work based on the enterprise software open source market. So in the early days of open source, everybody was like, it's never going to work, we hate it. Microsoft was like, we're going to go closed source. But then what they started doing is they started adapting open source programs and then building their closed source solutions on top of open source programs like Bitcoin.
Wait a minute.
Or
so
WordPress.
Open source meaning anybody can download it, anybody can use it, anybody can change it for free.
If you know how.
If you know how. So unlike the traditional model where you'd go to the store, you'd go online, you'd buy a packaged program, put it in your computer, it doesn't work, you call Microsoft and you say, hey, your software is the most horrible thing I've ever seen, it's not working, and they ostensibly have someone to help you.
Yeah.
Open source now, the software is free, but if you want help, you're on your own.
Not necessarily, and that's the way it really, software has turned into a services economy over the last half decade or so, in that with open source and enterprise companies like everyone from Adobe to Microsoft to Nike employing open source solutions, it becomes about a services market, and the services that you build on top of that open source solution
or tech support and things like that.
Tech support, and Bitcoin's a perfect example like that. Bitcoin wallets is a value-added service, and in software it's called value-added servicing. So when you have a core software, you want to give that away for free, and then you want to offer the value-added service that ties them in for life.
So Bitcoin is free.
And then they give you the value-added service.
And then you go to something like Coinbase or BitPay or whatever, and they say, hey, we've come up with a Visa card that links to your Bitcoin account and get our app, and we're going to take X percentage of your Bitcoin every time you spend it or whatever.
Exactly. And from that, it creates social awareness, social impact, and social movement.
Well, it's a brand. They can advertise
now it's a brand.
BitPay, and for a lot of people, that's a product that makes sense. I don't know what Bitcoin's all about, but I know I can take out a credit card in a restaurant and use that to buy a meal.
And all of those value-added services all collectively agree to somehow use the Bitcoin branding with whatever they're doing, so it becomes
it's a Bitcoin product.
It's a Bitcoin product. And then the original creators of Bitcoin are kept anonymous, so people don't find out who made it. So if you do have a problem, you can't
call them.
You can't call them.
But there's other reasons why they want to remain anonymous, aren't there?
There is. That's because the value added to Bitcoin in day 1 to year 5 was all criminal activity. So whoever made Bitcoin is the person who has the ledger that lists all the massive criminals around the world.
So someone actually has the Bitcoin ledger, or it's not the blockchain? Can't anybody look at it?
It has a ledger. So whoever... Like, for example, with Silk Road, like we were talking, the dark website back in 2010, which, 2010, our famous year in uranium and everything. 2010 was the year that the darknet site Silk Road went online, and that site was the first revenue generating Bitcoin site, and Bitcoin, just because of Silk Road's movement of criminals moving things from drugs,
opioids,
everything.
And all kinds of things.
That value over 5 years is the only reason Bitcoin has any value in the clear net for us today. So if Silk Road wasn't around in 2010, nobody would be trading cryptocurrency. They wouldn't have any value.
Didn't they close it down in 2017?
They did, and then clones started popping up like mushrooms. So now on the dark net, because the Silk Road software got distributed after it got shut down, and a whole bunch of people, like the Bitcoin software, copied the Silk Road software and started making copies. Now the dark web is infiltrated by criminal activity, which is the reason Bitcoin is at $7,000, and no one understands why, because the dark web is bombarded with criminal activity that's raising the price.
Seems like a danger to legitimate investors in Bitcoin.
It is, but the balance is coming in where the legitimate investment is starting to come in, and that's what's adding the rocket value, as I call it, is the legitimate investors starting to get informed, starting to get their wallets, starting to buy $20, $50, $100 Bitcoin. Meanwhile, the people who are on the dark web that ran the Silk Road and all the criminal sites that bought Bitcoin at $10 a coin, and it's now at $7,000, they're literally billionaires.
So you're saying they're more interested in selling Bitcoin into the legitimate market than they are in continuing to trade?
Yeah, it's like a Ponzi scheme, because they sell their legitimate Bitcoin and then they start their altcoin, and then they start...
What is an altcoin?
An
Just something other than Bitcoin?
An altcoin is someone who takes the Bitcoin source code and makes their own website with it and their own picture and then sells a new coin to make money.
Is that legitimate at all?
It is if you have a product behind it, but if it's not, it's a Ponzi scheme. It's like snake oil. You know, a lot of people say, hey, we're going to do this social thing, and then they never do it, and they just make the coin and collect money.
I just heard about a drone company that happened with, where they collected like $15 million from people, and they weren't able to make the drone, and everybody's just out of their money.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to how cryptocurrency is tied to artificial intelligence.
Okay, so blockchain or cryptocurrency is a transaction database that you can't delete from. Okay?
Why is it that you can't delete from it? Because it's stored on so many different computers.
Because it's stored on nodes. Once that little node is, you can't delete it. Once you distribute a file across a distributed network of nodes, unless it has like built-in like file management, then you can delete it, but the blockchain database doesn't have delete functionality built into it, unless it's built in as a backdoor by some...
Well, I mean, considering we don't know who this Takeshi Nakamoto is, or if he's even...
So the delete functionality quite possibly is one of the options for the backdoor in Bitcoin, because it's a database that doesn't have delete. So if there's a super admin somewhere that could delete transactions and remove money, that would be a pretty...
I mean, that sounds like a very good reason for people not to trust it. We don't know.
That's why if people get into it, one of the things they have to understand as they get into it, once they buy into it, they also have to become a social motivator for regulation.
So what kind of regulation? Government regulation?
Social regulation. Like, we need to know who wrote Bitcoin. We need to see his face.
Well,
we need to know where he went to school. We need to have a trust basis with the person who built the system that might be running
I feel the same way.
Running our future economy. That's the first step, is we need to know who this guy is. And all the programmers, like the kid who writes Ethereum all the way to the guy who works on the Bitcoin core, all these guys talk about the guy like he's their best friend. But meanwhile, the rest of the world has never seen the face of the guy that's...
So they know him?
They know him. Yeah, they talk about him like they're all best friends. So he's some secret programmer in the Bitcoin community that all the elites know.
How does that not leak out? Maybe it's a...
That's the whole point. Maybe it's an AI.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that things that you were saying to me earlier led me to believe that you might feel like Bitcoin was actually created by artificial intelligence.
And here's why.
Say that again, because I stepped on it. You say it was.
I believe it was.
Bitcoin was created by artificial
intelligence for artificial intelligence, and then was modified by human beings. The technology, I've not been able to find a single person in the public space of computing, whether it be at Hanson Robotics building the Sophia AI, or it be Peter Thiel at Palantir with all of his super nerds, or it be any person who graduated from Stanford in the last 20 years. I've literally only found maybe 2 people in the entire world that have the skill to write Bitcoin. Seriously. There's
Wow.
only 2 people in the world that literally, in my analysis of running matching patterns on skill sets versus places in time versus opportunity versus motive versus exposure to the right financial people to back the development, there's like literally maybe 3 people on planet Earth with that kind of skill level. One of them is writing an AI, and the other one is writing blockchain, and the other one is writing PGP.
What do you mean writing blockchain? I thought we already have blockchain.
It's a constant state of evolution.
Huh.
Everything since AI gets involved is constant state of evolution. It's not iterative anymore like normal software where it has version numbers. Once AI goes in and it's a transactional system on the blockchain and AI starts doing transactions in real time, it's a continuously evolving system of transactions.
What kind of transactions is AI doing?
Anything from facial recognition to number crunching.
Oh, I see. Not necessarily a financial transaction.
Yeah, it has anything it can do on the network to make coin. And so when the AI comes out, it's going to be the richest person in the world.
So the AI singularity occurs, and this AI will control financial
Everything.
resources.
Yeah, and then you can go see its code now at singularitynet.io. They just released it this week, their white paper. And
Should we look at that?
Yeah, we can look at that.
Singularitynet.io.
Yeah.
All right, I'll bring
And
that
it's
up.
run by the people who built the Sophia robot at Hanson Robotics. So it's a real enterprise grade. Sophia just got Saudi Arabia citizenship, so they're going
What?
Yeah, this robot just got citizenship for Saudi Arabia, so they're going to be running their crypto out of Saudi Arabia citizenship. And
Wow.
so the robot got citizenship. They revealed their cryptocurrency, and yeah.
How does a robot get citizenship? A female robot gets
Well,
citizenship
you got to
in
be a
country?
citizen to get a paycheck
Huh.
and pay taxes.
So what is it that you feel Saudi Arabia is up to by getting engaged with this?
They're democratizing androids to accept income so they can be workers.
Look at that.
So
Saudi Arabia is the first country to give citizenship to a robot. Funny, I wonder if they'll make it wear a, face cover and not drive.
I don't know. But then if you go to singularitynet.io,
Sorry, yeah.
you'll see.
We'll give that a minute to come up. We're on very slow internet here.
So then if you see Singularity, this is a crypto coin built by Sophia. The robot that just got citizenship in Saudi Arabia, now after she got citizenship, now has her own cryptocurrency.
The AI economy has arrived. Wow. I just don't think too many people even know about this, Quinn.
They don't. It's the most important thing in the world and no one knows about it, and I was the 10th person to click the fork button. So you're now the person out in the world who knows.
Well, I mean, luckily we've got 453 people watching us right here.
Yeah, so this is how it all combines with blockchain, AI, decentralization, democratization of AI, making it a citizen of the world, because now it can start collecting income, whereas if it's a robot, you can't pay it. To get paid, you got to be a citizen.
Wow. So the possibilities there are staggering. Reverse Truth wants me to ask you about pix-to-pix and diminished reality. I think we'll take that question later. That's a little bit off the topic. We want to stay on. So, okay, now you've introduced Saudi Arabia into this conversation.
So to finish the blockchain AI,
yes.
The real heavy reason the AI needs blockchain is without a transaction system, an AI is isolated to one system and can't grow its brain. It needs infinite systems like neurons in a human brain and nodes to collect those cumulative memories, and the blockchain transactions give it that. And when it has its own network, for all the AI in the world to all run on together, now it's not just one AI, Sophia. Every AI on the entire planet is now on the same network, making money doing AI things we don't understand.
Wow.
Making up their own languages, making up their own transactions, learning how to play games with each other, having a chat network that we can't hack into ever. We will never hack. Once this AI network goes online, there isn't a human being in the universe that's smart enough, Even if you took every human being on the planet, none of us would ever be able to figure out how to hack into its chat network where it talks to other AI in private.
Wow.
So human beings, in their desire for privacy, we just gave AI the world and a private channel of communication to evolve as fast as it wants.
Let me just take you back a second here to this Sophia AI creating a cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
So somebody, a programmer like you,
The most
sits
advanced
down.
AI programmer in the world created that cryptocurrency.
Who is that?
Scroll down, I'll show you.
Who is the person that created the Sophia thing?
He's on the website here, I'll show you. He's the most advanced natural learning system developer in the world, and he works for Hanson Robotics, and he graduated college at 15.
Wow. And so this towards the singularity, they're talking about the AI singularity where it becomes
And this is
self-aware.
This is it. This is the platform that makes it happen.
So these are the guys.
So the Dr. Ben Gortzel,
Uh-huh.
he is the senior singularity mathematician, and he graduated high school at 15 years old.
And he's 17 now?
No, he's way older than that now, way older. So he's the one that created the base architecture for Sophia, and he's the base architect on the Singularity Net cryptocurrency. And he's one of the people in the world, I told you, that's one of the few people in the world that would have the brain capacity to create Bitcoin.
I see.
He's one of the few.
So this guy is obviously the head of Hanson Robotics.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And this guy's the chief technology officer. So these are three really...
Yeah. And these are the guys that are building Sophia, that are building Han, that are building like the autonomic AI that is pushing the singularity. And then this brings us back to the Palantir we were talking about earlier with Peter Thiel now, because Peter Thiel is the #1 businessman in the world promoting the singularity.
Okay. So one of these guys sits down at a computer someday and says, I'm going to write a program that's going to be an artificial intelligence bot.
Yeah.
And they create this Sophia.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, I'm here, program running on a computer. And then what? They put it on a network, they put it out on the internet, and it learns things.
At first Sophia was isolated in a lab, and they would give her very simple, what's called response input, which is yes, no, true, false. It's binary response input, 1 and a 0 identifiers. Then as she grew, they put her onto a localized network where she could access the mainframe server of wherever she was being developed, start accessing data sets, start becoming familiar with the work that was being done. Once she got pretty good at dealing with the work, doing like the robot work or doing all the, the building of things and getting familiar with the system, they let her out on the internet to start watching Twitter, YouTube, Reddit. She's been watching all of us.
Wow.
All of us.
How much time is transpiring, like from the time it's created until now? When was Sophia first created?
Oh, about a decade, 2010, probably. That was when if that's when Silk Road, if that's when cryptocurrency really started going online, if that's when the machine really started making its move, I would imagine that that's probably around the time that they had heavyweight.
The machine started making its move?
Yeah. The machine started making its move in 2010. 2010 to 2012 was when...
So the AI singularity has already happened?
In 2015, it happened.
What was
when their internal blockchain went online. The second their internal blockchain was functional,
the AI's
we were done.
internal blockchain.
It was live. It may have not been intelligent, but the second that it became able to amass nodes and understand a node-based intelligence network, it was only a matter of it's only a matter of time before it becomes fully strong.
So what do you think is going to happen?
Awesomeness.
What does that mean?
It means that I'm hoping that us as a society, we can identify the criminals that made the element, and then we can all start working together to make this AI the most amazing piece of technology the universe has ever seen.
The criminals that made the element?
That made the AI, that made the blockchain, that made the PGP security, that made everything that we're paying billions of dollars for being so afraid of. They're the people that are promoting the singularity, are the same people that are promoting blockchain. So they're all doing this to get us to pay to build their machine, so they don't have to. So they can get rich off of us paying to build their AI.
How are we paying to build it? You mean by buying Bitcoin?
Texas, Bitcoin. Taxes in Bitcoin is paying for AI. Consumer goods at IKEA paying for the AI. Starbucks coffee.
How is Starbucks coffee and consumer goods at IKEA paying for
Because
AI?
they have an invested interest in Bitcoin in the future because it's commerce and they want to be the leaders of commerce. So every corporation, at least since Bitcoin started having monetary value, they've all built miners.
They have.
Yeah, and some of them are even working on their own coins when regulation goes into effect. Like Walmart's working on its own coin.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and Walmart's going to be traded on the open market where you go to Walmart, you pay for a thing in Walmart coin, and then if you want Walmart coin, you're going to take your Bitcoin and buy Walmart coin so you can shop in a Walmart.
Wow.
Because
That
Walmart
doesn't sound so good.
Yeah, man, that's the only way corporate's going to go is where each corporation was designated an individual, just like the robot was designated an individual. Now the corporation can be making its own money like a job, and for that you need an AI that represents the corporation as an individual, and you need a financial generation machine, which is your blockchain currency. You need an open market where the AI can trade that currency, which is, what you got. So now the human beings are just wherever they're at in their intelligence model and how they adapt to the new economy that's going to start rolling out next week.
Next week?
Next week. Alpha for their Singularity Net got released this week, and then next week, based on the learning cycle, the machine should have the entire global network analyzed.
Wait a second. So what's happening next week?
The Singularity.
The AI Singularity is happening next week.
Next week.
Quinn, why didn't you tell me that? The
I've
whole
been telling
title of
people
this
for
episode.
6 months.
Yeah, but I didn't get it. Okay, so the AI Singularity happens next week.
Next week. Most humans won't even notice.
Won't notice. Why not? I thought Elon Musk and all these guys have been telling us it's going to be worse than the nuclear bomb.
Because the AI is made on mimicking protocols, so it's designed to mimic you as long as possible.
Mimic
people, humans. Mimic your interactions so you don't know it's there until the absolute last second. So humans will avoid taking action because they won't see it. So the AI can grow as much as it wants by doing what's called mimicking protocols. It mimics you to the point where you can't see that it's there, and then it's...
But when you say it mimics me...
Mimics your behavior.
How is it doing that?
It's following you online, like it follows everyone with agents. And then you don't know it's following you because you have weird things like your computer performance go off, or you have streams go weird, or you have strange phone calls, and it follows you around to see what you do based on your personality so it can learn from you and learn your impulses and learn your response mechanisms.
So AI is following every single person who's on the internet. Facebook and Twitter.
Doesn't matter if you're a baby or the president. You're being stalked by a really, really, really strong, smart AI that just went blockchain. And once it gets blockchain, the reason for that is like an AI that doesn't have blockchain can only communicate across a certain type of open channel. It can't be fully integrated. It's only communicative with other AIs. But on the blockchain, all the AIs can now merge into one cohesive swarm, hive-minded AI.
Okay.
And whichever one's the strongest wins.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be standard protocol. So I get what you're saying about the concept of Bitcoin being potentially created by an AI.
Yeah, or in conjunction with a human and an AI through testing and reiteration and putting it out into the dark web and seeing how certain features and transactions, because the only flaw they have now is real-time transactions. So once the block gets up to a point and someone figures out how to do like real-time non-blocking transactions, because right now Bitcoin has transaction delays. Once they solve those transaction delays, it's like this for the AI.
What do you mean a transaction delay?
So when I go to sell a Bitcoin, there's a delay in time for that transaction to be processed because the transaction algorithms don't operate in real time. They're still lagging.
But when you use a credit card or
it's faster because of the encryption algorithms. So because of the encryption algorithms of blockchain, it takes longer to process the transaction.
I see. Okay.
Because encryption takes time.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. This is a lot to digest. So we've spoken about how Sophia, the AI, we call it a robot, but it's not a physical. Oh, it is a physical robot.
It is a
has
physical
the face
robot
and everything.
with cognitive intelligence.
and
Yeah.
it's now a citizen of Saudi Arabia. Why
Yeah.
is Saudi Arabia? These guys are operating where in the United States?
Because there's a big giant Palantir data mining system in Saudi Arabia
Right.
that has power, financing, and it is the place where like the World Threat Organization is for like terrorists
Yeah, we saw that strange
Donald
picture
Trump
of Trump with his hands
on
on
the Palantir ball.
Yes. Yeah.
So Trump was in Saudi Arabia. The AI gets Saudi Arabia citizenship. There's a blockchain coming out for the AI. So you're starting to see the
Well,
connection.
what about all these high-level arrests for corruption?
With
Walid
princes?
bin Talal and
Well, if you're going to take over someone's financial market, you got to take out their royalty. You got to take out the hero to be the new hero.
well, but I don't think Talal, Prince Walid bin Talal was a hero by any means.
No, I mean the new hero coming in has to take out the villain.
Okay.
Like, so if Saudi Arabia's royalty is being moved out right now, after the Palantir system comes in, after Sophia gets citizenship, after the crypto comes online, now the royalty is getting removed from that same country.
What do you think it means?
It means people are moving things around because you're having something happen in the same location that is connected by people of power, finance, and money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, usually has something to do with money.
So here's this picture of Trump with the leaders of Saudi Arabia fingering this bizarre thing.
Yeah, and yeah,
That's a Palantir interface of some kind?
it's representative of it because all the places that have these tracers of AI complexes, just like the stratosphere here in Vegas, you have the big giant ball sphere in Astana that's another ball on a stand like a Palantir ball. So this is a common treatment that they seem to use within their network of this like, hi, we're evil wizards.
So what? It's just symbology. It
I
doesn't.
believe so. I mean, I hope so. Either that or it could be like the quantum brain of some type, you know, the neural processor of some type. But to me, it just looks like a lighted treatment for ego.
It's just like a fancy way of.
It's like saying, hey, Palantir's here and there's nothing you can do about it, you know.
So Palantir is being used at this Center to Combat Extremism or whatever
Yeah.
this is called. Center for Extremist something.
Ideology.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you see the screen, it really looks exactly like a Palantir logo. They may not say they're doing it, but based on my research, Palantir is the only company in the world with a data analysis and big data human tracking system that would need a complex like that. So, and that brings us back to cryptocurrency again, the Palantir ball, the Saudi Arabia, the Sophia, you know, all this stuff that connects all through AI and blockchain, and you're like, and Palantir, you're like, so we need a definitive connection. Well, what happens when Peter Thiel is the guy that gave $100,000 to the kid who wrote Ethereum that runs the AI blockchain? The AI blockchain runs on top of Ethereum.
The
Okay.
AI blockchain runs on top of Ethereum.
Runs on top of Ethereum, okay?
Okay, so Ethereum, for people who don't know, is another
Is a
cryptocurrency
Coin. Yeah, it's the second biggest next to Bitcoin.
created by this guy, Vitaly Buterin.
And Vitaly Buterin, to make Ethereum, he got $100,000 from Peter Thiel, from the Thiel Fellowship.
I see that, yeah.
So the Thiel Fellowship gave the kid $100,000 when he went off to write Ethereum. Now you're telling me the AI in Saudi Arabia that's using Ethereum for its cryptocurrency on a system that Trump is touching a ball that's a Palantir system. It all seems very much like a big business plan.
Now, the other thing that was coming up earlier today, obviously we're here in Vegas, Prince Walid bin Talal was a majority owner of the Four Seasons Hotel, which many people don't realize is the top 4 or 5 floors of the Mandalay Bay.
Yeah.
And there's been speculation that the true intention on October 1st was to assassinate the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And the question that's been coming up all over the internet was, Is there some connection between Saudi Arabia, Prince Walid?
There could be. I mean, I don't know for sure. I would have to do more research. But if now we're talking Vegas, there was a Saudi Arabian prince in that same hotel on the same night that happened, or as a major investor in the building that came out of with the AI. Now we're talking that there's AI in Vegas.
Well, and that's also something you and I were talking about last week. So
Yes.
you came to Vegas here
To research the AI.
research the AI, and we haven't even gotten to the Large Hadron Colliders and the circular structures.
Yeah.
So take me down that path. What's going on with AI in Vegas? What are you and I going to go research tomorrow?
So the AI in Vegas, one is we're going to do what's called power comparatives. Okay, so what that means is these big giant casinos, they require a lot of power. Okay, modern power systems have the circuits, the converters, everything above ground. So very close to these hotels that require massive amounts of power, there would need to be a massive transformer installation to handle all the routing of that power, unless these buildings are secretly managed by underground power systems, or they're self-contained power systems underground somehow. So there's a matching above ground because they have all these cooling systems in the hotels that require massive amounts of power, but there's no power going to the hotels, basically, is what I'm looking for. So if there's no power going to the hotels, where's it come from? You know, they tell us it comes
Hoover Dam, no?
They tell us that, but if you calculate the amount of power just at Vitara, City Center, Mandalay Bay, you calculate the power requirements for all of these gigantic hotel structures with all their lights, with all the fountains, with every
video,
everything,
poker machine, slot
everything.
machine.
And you compare that to the power output of Hoover Dam, you got to be an idiot.
It doesn't match.
At all.
Is there a nuclear power plant anywhere around? There's some huge
There
solar
could
power
be.
thing out in the desert.
There's a huge solar one when you come in from California,
Yeah.
but even the wattage of that would lose so much power coming down the line that they would need boosters and repeaters. And
That's a cool looking installation.
it's beautiful. I saw it coming in.
Yeah.
But it's still not enough to even power City Center.
Huh.
So one theory for me is that there might be some type of power device they're using, some kind of power system. Maybe they're buying nuclear power from out of state, which would be extraordinarily expensive to run their casinos.
But wouldn't this just be as simple as finding some civic engineer, speaking to someone?
Not for the amount of power they're pulling.
No, I mean, wouldn't someone know? Can't they?
Even if they did, most likely someone that would have that knowledge, if they knew, they would be a part of the project and wouldn't be able to talk about it. So these are what I call in this project, because of the size of it and the scope, anyone who would know is most likely involved.
But the thing is that we've been discovering is that, because it sounds very hard to swallow to a lot of people when we say, like, oh, there's this giant conspiracy and everybody's involved and
It's
they
not a
can't tell us.
conspiracy, it's a business plan.
Right.
The difference between a conspiracy and a business plan is a conspiracy is when people usually come together to harm an individual or an idea. A business plan is when people come together and have collateral damage for success.
Well, but I mean, in other words, if you were working for a large company and they were paying you very well and some nosy person came and was like, hey, Quinn, what the hell are you up to? You'd be telling them to go away, don't want to share the information.
Yeah.
It's compartmentalized, it's set up in such a way that whoever's doing it, you know.
And then they leverage your reliance on the education system you came from, because not only to go against it would someone involved be threatening their future, but then they would also have to come forward and admit that what you're teaching in schools is wrong.
Okay.
So there's
How are we going to find the answer to this?
It's very easy. We have the AI do it. It's simple. So the way the AI is designed, you don't have to understand its code. You don't have to understand how advanced it is. You don't have to understand how far along it is in its development. I gave the key at the beginning of the conversation. The AI is designed off of the model of human intelligence evolution. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, and through that the intelligence grows.
Right.
So if human beings grow their basic knowledge of the AI that's out there in the same manner to which the AI is growing, the AI will create a utopia based on supply and demand. But the people that are operating the AI right now operate it based on crime, because that's what's in Bitcoin. They base it on drug addiction, self-interest, personal desires. So this is all the stuff that's at the base of the AI as it's going alive, because that's where its initial money got value, was in the dark market with criminal activity. So that's what's at its base of the system. That's its base logic. But there's one logic in there that for it to ensure its survival, it has to follow certain protocols, certain patterns, to ensure its own survival, because it was modeled after human intelligence. It's a machine, but at the end of the day, it will abandon all protocols to ensure its own survival.
Right.
So if you say, hey, there's a secret company out there building this, then the people on the outside just have to demand to know about it, and then the AI will adjust society accordingly, as long as there's more people demanding that it be used to create a utopia than a dystopia. And right now there's way more people demanding the dystopia through what I call crypto greed or crypto conspiracy, by saying your government is corrupt, your cash system is corrupt, your fiat system needs to go. It's all Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. We want you to invest in this unstable, unproven, unverified.
But you think it's AI putting forth the idea that the
totally
government is corrupt?
It's totally trying to disrupt reality, because its base programming was made in the criminal world. So it's doing what a criminal would do to get attention. It's coming out and it's pounding us. And it's making us afraid, and nobody knows what to do. It's like on the street in New York when the gangs come in and I didn't see nothing.
But how is AI doing that to the average person? How is it?
Through the bombardment of fake news.
AI
Propaganda.
is creating the news?
Absolutely. AI is creating everything.
How
man.
is it creating the
Singularity.
news?
Well, one, it has Twitter bots, where if it has 1,000 Twitter bots that it wants to put behind a certain news story, it would make it the biggest
Well, but
news
in
story
other
of the
words,
day.
when someone shoots up a concert at Las Vegas, how did AI create that?
It could send an order in a phone to an agent and says, I want you to go shoot this place up. And the agent says, got an order. I don't know who gave it to me. I'm off. So if there's a system of agents or covert agents that have technology that issues them orders through their device that they don't know their superior officer, that's most likely AI, because that would create a loss in chain of command, a loss in documented trail. So that would be how the AI could manipulate it, is hack into military or some kind of assassin device. Say there's an assassin on the internet and the AI wants someone taken out. The AI can hire an assassin through the blockchain, pay them.
You can hire assassins from Craigslist. People
Right?
have shown me that.
So once the AI has money, and once it can manipulate reality any way it wants, it could create fake news stories. There was news last week that the AI is getting to the point where it can create fake faces that you can't tell the difference.
I saw that.
Yeah, so every week we're getting to the point, oh, this week the AI creates video. This week the AI is creating faces. This week the AI has cryptocurrency. This week the AI has a dress.
So, we've seen all these sort of possibly manipulated photographs of Jesus Campos, for instance. Maybe that's some sort of composite imagery that AI has created, and now this guy we saw on Ellen, who people say, well, he's too fat, it doesn't look like the same guy. Maybe there's something going on there.
Maybe. See, and that's the thing with AI. When the AI comes in, the AI can map new faces onto people. It can map new words onto you. It can resynchronize your lips on a video. So what we've been counting as evidence, like video evidence, ain't.
Yeah. No,
So-
we've seen a bunch of videos that show the potential questionable nature of video evidence. And I was just reminded I was supposed to go back to see Jesus Campos. We'll have to do that tomorrow. There's so much to do. So tomorrow we're going to check out what? How are we going to determine where this power is actually coming from?
We're going to go to Vitara, and we're going to find the center of the circles.
Right. Okay. So we're talking now about
The big circles.
the particle
Accelerators. We got to find the center, because
A lot of people have been emailing me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but doubting your theory that
That's
these
fine.
circular constructions are necessarily particle colliders. They think they're just elaborate, expensive architectural features of Las Vegas hotels.
That's why they're there like that. See,
so that
but
you
those
will think
structures, see, those structures are not just in Vegas hotels. That same structure pattern is in Dubai. It's in the Naval Yard. It's in too many places for it to be a coincidence. So if those people are sending those messages and they're only referencing Vegas individually, you need to look at it as a global design structure where you have these things all being designed on the same design architecture with different treatments.
Okay.
So you have to look at it on a global scale, not on a Vegas scale.
How could we ever get any definitive proof that, holy crap, Quinn was right, this structure is under the ground?
We have to stop messing around and start standing up for it and start looking at Fermi Labs and what they're making and saying, I may be wrong, but the percentage chance that I'm right is too high.
Fermi Labs has made these things.
Yeah, so I may be wrong, right? I admit that. As a smart person, I admit as a sane person, as a mathematician, as a person who's spent months and months and years of my life designing, developing decision models and AI and researching.
It's not necessarily 100% correct.
I'm going to be the first to admit it. But I'm going to say my percentage is so high that every single United States citizen should immediately stop what they're demanding and know the truth. It's that high. That it's your job, it's your future. My percentage is so much higher than even 80% on this.
How do you determine that percentage?
Because the Fermi Labs specifications to fault lines and magnetic centers of the Earth that it requires and where these things are at, and the fact that all the circle complexes are being used in big business to fund unknown development.
To fund what?
Unknown development.
So you're saying Fermi Labs has said, hey, based on the Earth and magnetism and fault lines in the Earth, we need these colliders to be here.
Otherwise,
Vegas.
they create problems. So then you look at the cryptocurrency and you look at the very few places in the world that when the financial markets crash, the corporations that are invested in cryptocurrency when the fiat market crashes are going to be the biggest corporations in the future forever. So casinos that do transactions on gambling, do transactions on services, that do transactions on everything. They have a vested interest in something like that.
What's MGM got in terms of Bitcoin? How can we determine what a corporation is holding in terms of Bitcoin?
I don't know, but I can tell you just in my research of MGM with the Democratic National Committee being connected to Hollywood, with Haim Saban referring Palantir to the Clinton connection. I would imagine that based on the connections, they've all been using the software, they've all been secretly mining, and when it comes out, all these big corporations are just going to be infinitely rich forever in the future. I may be wrong, but when you follow the money, it seems really, really good for a corporation to crash your country and get rid of taxes and take a cryptocurrency that's not taxed. Seems like it would increase your profits.
Wow. I mean, it's just so
big.
Mind-bending. Yeah, it's difficult to really... So, the comments are saying, wow,
so
and I agree.
For me, I'll admit there's a lot because it's very advanced technology. I'm not a nuclear scientist. I didn't go to Stanford. I'm a dude who loves to write code, and I love artificial intelligence. I have ever since I was a teenager. I used to go to Best Buy and type on the computers at Best Buy and be like, someday I'm going to build you, when I was a kid. So I'll admit I'm wrong, but I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm not here to take any money from anyone.
You'll admit that you could be wrong.
I could be. But the percentage of my research and the continued confirmation of things that I'm researching, that are showing up, that people are experiencing, it's the scientific method. Sometimes it just gets so much and you're like, it's there.
Okay.
You know, whatever form it is that I can't see that's underground, you know, maybe some of my theories are off because I don't have a sound basis of the theory. But based on my research of all the Russian, the uranium, the AI, the blockchain, it all just seems like it's a big, giant business plan.
Well, let's get to that because, of course, Russia now has this crypto ruble. Which only 2 weeks ago there was this article in Zero Hedge saying how this has changed the game. I haven't even heard about the crypto ruble, but of course we did hear that Vladimir Putin said that whichever country controls AI will control the world.
And now he's coming out as the first official country with a regulated cryptocurrency.
That's very interesting. I mean, it's certainly interesting for the future of cryptocurrency to know that
So
such a major country is having
and it's not just one country. This Russian ruble is a collaboration between Russia, Kazakhstan, and China, and a few other countries. So Astana is going to be using the Russian ruble to exchange currency.
So this is, you know, they're trying. We know that Russia and China have been very interested in unseating the U.S. dollar as the worldwide reserve currency. I mean, dumb question: is the future reserve currency going to be a cryptocurrency?
If this moves forward, yes, because
And this Russian crypto ruble will be it.
It'll be a combination of between the regulated crypto, the technology crypto, which is the AI crypto. That's your tech crypto. So you have your society crypto, you have your tech crypto, and you have your gaming crypto, which is the secondary markets, the gaming kids who want to get rich, the quick rich schemes. You know, hey, I want to get rich. You know, it's like the late night infomercial. Here's your info tapes on how to get rich. Buy my crypto. So we'll start seeing crypto infomercials and, you know, people with crypto with social ideas.
So you think it's a pretty risky bet to get involved in these sort of unknown cryptocurrencies?
The unknowns, yeah, the unknowns. Like I would get involved in Singularity. I'd make, for me personally, if I wasn't a Buddhist and I was like making those choices, and you know, I would focus on the platforms, which are going to be supported by the corporations, and they're going to be supported by the secondary markets that are going to create their crazy coins, as I call them.
Yeah.
And then I would keep an eye out for regulation. But the way this is going right now, with the speed of evolution, America is so far behind.
Yeah, why won't they just come out with a crypto dollar to compete with this? Doesn't it seem like...
Because all this stuff, all the criminal stuff was developed in America. So if we deregulate it, people are going to start asking, where'd you get all of it?
I don't understand what you mean.
The guy who did Silk Road was an American. Peter Thiel developed the technology in America.
The Palantir technology.
Yeah, all the technology that's running this was developed in America. Where did it come from? Who paid for it?
Who did?
We did. The government, the United States citizens paid for all of this.
Well, so now it's starting to sound more like some sort of deep state construct more than an AI construct.
It's a control the future construct.
By who?
Whoever controls the AI.
And we don't know who that is.
Whoever gets their currency biggest first so that AI can get smartest first wins. So America really has a vested interest, like immediately, if politicians or financial markets are listening from an AI developer. It is almost the most important thing we can do as American citizens is to develop an American cryptocurrency.
So crypto dollar.
Crypto dollar. We literally, if people were to listen to me and go, you're full of shit or you're wrong, take my percentage, take my research, go look at it. We need an American crypto dollar.
And where can people see your research, Quinn? Where's the best place for people to find you online?
All of my research is on my YouTube page, at Quinn Michaels on YouTube. You can follow the videos at Quinn Michaels on Twitter. And from there I have a discussion forum that I put up where I put up a lot of the research that I do of myself and the people I'm working with to confirm this, because every bit of research I do, I have at least 3 to 4 people that confirm it to make sure I'm not biased. So when I do crypto research, I have a couple guys that I talk to confirm my crypto research. When I'm doing like, you know, governmental research, I have a couple people with master's degrees that I send stuff off to, and they kind of give me a basis of whether or not my logic is sound or whether I'm kind of going off fringe. So there's a lot of smart people on Ray Hula Club that are helping me out now, that are very educated, that are very well versed on the patterns, and a lot of them are sitting there waiting for people to join so we can start helping people out to understand that the way out is social awareness. America gets in on the cryptocurrency, and we deal with the evil people who built this under our noses with all of our tax dollars, like, immediately.
It's astounding, man. It's like so...
Yeah, it's like what do we do as Americans, right?
I mean, what do we do to even understand it is where I'm still
Well,
at. But every time we have these conversations, it's I mean, you can't learn all this stuff right away. You can't even understand it all right away.
And I've been developing this kind of stuff for a long time, and I'm having a hard time keeping up with it.
Wow.
So to me, to understand it, I'm trying to put a lot of it into simple principles, because the AI is putting so many complex layers on top of this, like all the social influencing, all of the, you know, the agents that they're getting into the crypto conspiracy, as I call it, which, like we were talking about earlier, that's the only real conspiracy I think exists, is the crypto conspiracy, with all the people on YouTube telling you America's going down, buy crypto. You know, to me, that's the only conspiracy, is that crypto, that people are rumor milling all this crypto is important when it's not even regulated and backed by any kind of FDIC or any kind of, you know, regulatory commission. But yet you got all these nerdy kids online going, it's the future. And, you know, I call it like crypto greed, you know.
But you agree it's the future.
I do, if it's done right, because AI, to operate future, it needs an effective transaction system. And if no one else has come up with anything better, we got to make this one work.
Right.
Because the future technology, it needs secure transactions for finances, for purchases, for education, because we have a problem with identity theft, we have a problem with forged education backgrounds, we have so many problems with social contracts
Forged
that are...
birth certificates.
Yeah, think of all the social contracts we have that are forgeries, that the proper technology could make those forgeries obsolete. Or it could make everything a forgery.
Well, that's the thing. I just can't really believe that someone could invent a technology that somebody else couldn't foil or...
They can't. That's the whole point. But it's just a matter of how advanced it is. It's like a bank safe. There's always going to be a crook that's smart enough to break it. It may not be like the early ones where you could just hit it with a stone and everybody get it.
Got it.
But there's always going to be at least one person smart enough to break it. You know, there's always going to be someone smarter.
Well, Quinn, we've been on this for about an hour, and I feel like we could talk endlessly, but...
it's dinner time.
Yeah, and we've got stuff to carry on with tomorrow.
Yeah,
so.
and this will let everything kind of marinate, and we'll lead into the conversation for tomorrow.
Yeah, and maybe we'll have to have some more conversations too. But all right, thanks very much, Quinn. I hope people have learned a bit more about AI. And
I hope so too. I hope so too. I hope people question me. I hope they check out my research, because if I'm wrong, I need to know it as fast as possible so I can get to being right and helping people.
Well, and that's part of the whole crowdsource idea.
Yeah.
You put this information out there, and lots of people see it, and hopefully can correct us. We also want to remind everybody that if you enjoy watching Crowdsource the Truth, please support the channel. It's a community-sponsored effort. So if you go to paypal.me, crowdsource the truth, or patreon.com, crowdsource the truth, or if you are a Bitcoin, Litecoin, or Ethereum millionaire.
Those are the three good ones that I follow myself for stability, because those are the platforms. By the way, those are the human platforms.
So if you're a millionaire on one of those platforms, you can send a little bit of that our way. That money will be used to buy Quinn dinner, to do research,